Are you stuck still playing the same old jazz chords? Most players still play the chords they learned from their rock and their blues backgrounds, but what we're going to do in this video, top 3 shapes require no theory and they will completely change your sound for the better. Let's get going. You loved the 12 essential jazz guitar chords video that raked in thousands of views in the past few years. So in this video, we're going to look at 3 more easy shapes that you can play everywhere. And if you stick with me towards the end of the video, we'll do that on the 2-5-1 and on standard progressions. So the first chord shape we're looking at is a good old G6. It's going to be fingered like this with the second finger on the root of the G, the E, the B, and the D. And the point here is that's a complete G6 sound. Now, why not do this good old G major 7 that you're already familiar with? What I find is that professionals typically will use that 6 sound as a resolution. So the point is the chord, the major 7, is not bad, but it's almost as if it requires that resolution. We want to hear So my best guess with the students that are starting jazz is to learn the C6 again. So here's the shape. Now for bonus points on this, you can maintain the exact same hand integrity, but instead of having the shape with the root on the 6th string, which is right here at the bottom, we have the root on the 5th string, and you can preserve the exact same shape of your finger for a beautiful G major 9 chord. This is excellent. So again, G6 is here and G major 9 is here. So from the G major 9, I can practice and get down to my G6 like this. And one of the things that a lot of beginning jazz students will ask, what about that 5th string? So it's not ringing, and what the block of the string is typically my left hand here. So that second finger gets in the way of the A string as to it not ring. And then that's it. Or sometimes I use a combination of right hand palm mute as well. Let's move on to the next chord. All right, next family we'll do G minor. So we've done G major with a G6 or a G major 9. Now with the minor family, typically if I ask you guys or rockers to play a G minor 7, they will go like this. They will play a full bar or do something like this. So we'll take this as a starting point, but we will, instead of using the first finger, we'll use the second finger on the grip and use the third finger as a partial bar. This comes in handy later. You can't believe, like, it's a bit more effort right now, but you can't believe the stuff that's going to come out of this. So that's our G minor 7. So 3, X, 3, 3, 3. And we use the same technique here to mute the A string. As that not have the A string ring out, I use a combination of my left second finger and my palm mute to make sure the A string is not ringing. Notice how instead of using the index finger, we're using the second finger as our root, and that's going to be the case for mostly all the chords we see today. The other version of this chord that's important is again to have the G on the 5th string, and note it's not going to be the exact same shape with the third finger. It goes like this. That is the shape. So you have an X, you have 10, 8, 10, 10. So G minor 7 to G minor 9. By the way, if you're looking to implement that G minor, in the introduction I was playing the song 4 on 6, which is a song by Wes Montgomery. So you could either play the G minor 7 like this or the G minor 9 like this for extra practice in context with your minor chords. All right, guys, if you're watching this, thank you very much. Please like and subscribe. And I know only about 30% of you guys that are watching are actually subscribed to the channel. So more subscribers and more likes really increases my ability to produce more of these videos for you in the future. And note that we have dozens, probably hundreds of related videos about comping that you can go watch right now on the jazzguitarlessons.net channel. Back to the chords. Now for a third and final chord, we've already covered the G major 6, we've covered the G minor 7, along with a variation on the top here, the minor and the minor. We're going to go into dominant chords, and that's a key to the jazz soulfulness. A lot of players will come to, you know, a Sonny Rollins blues or Miles Davis blues, even a Charlie Parker, and we'll start with a G7 like this. Yuck. It's not very colorful, so I prefer the soulfulness of G13. Okay, here we go. So this is like looking at fingers like in a staircase. So you get fret 3, 4, and 5 with your last 3 fingers, and that guy here, and this is how it sounds. Again, we have to be mindful of the A string, so we make sure that the index is getting in the way as to mute the A string, or a combination of right palm mute. And the other version of this you might already have played if you played any length of rock or blues or even funk music. It's a G9 that you'll play like this. So the frets are of course 10, 9, 10, 10, and here you go. So those are two variations that you could play on the blues in the key of G, for instance, or anytime you have a context where you have a 2-5-1, which is our next example. So the small tweaks make a tremendous difference, because at the beginning of the video, you saw me with shapes I don't really like this D minor 7. I would rather you guys do a D minor 9, right? Because it's more colorful, or this G7, or shapes that are very plain 7s. I find they're with this addition of the 9th or the 13th, they really spice up a lot more color. They're really rewarding. They're not that hard to play, and they instantly take someone from sort of jazz beginner to, oh wow, you sound like jazz now, man. That's really good. So that's what I do with my students, by the way. If you're interested in more coaching, please see link in descriptions, of course, for free ebook videos and like a coaching call. If you want help, you can talk to me directly, and we can discuss how to set up a plan and how to move on with the coaching program. So I'll give you an example now on the 2-5-1. So if you've been in contact with some jazz in the past, so you will know that the 2-5-1 is a basic cadence in which we have the one chord as being the C major. So if we're in the key of C, we're going to do C, D as our 2 chord, and we'll use that shape that we learned earlier. We had done G minor 9, now we're going to do D minor 9, followed by a G13, and followed by our 1 or C. We're going to pick that shape. So you all know these shapes, but we simply need to move them to the proper place on the fretboard. So it's around fret 3 to fret 5. You ready? So it's the D minor 9 again, followed by the G13, followed by the C major, and that's going to be for 2 bars. Let's just practice it a little bit with like a, I don't know, a bossa feel, just so you get the hang of changing from one chord to the next. You ready? A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 again. 1, 2. Beautiful. So of course we looked at a lot of chords in isolation. You learned about the major and the minor, the dominants, but all of these chords are worthless if you don't put them in a jazz progression, and you can watch my video about jazz chord progressions right here to continue your learning. If you're more intermediate in the jazz world, you will look at these chords and go, yeah, no big deal. So I will show you one note variation on each of the chord to bring more color and movement. So here we go. That should be pretty simple. From the G6, what we're going to do is flatten our index to get that A note behind, so the shape becomes this. So what I love personally is if I comp on a straight ahead major chord that lasts for a long time, I'll just go like, I will simply move the note, right? So you can also do that with the G major 9 here. So that becomes G major 9, G major 6, 9. What we had here as well, that's called G major 6, 9. Beautiful shape, easy, just an index bar in these shapes like this, right? This is like the equivalent of your good old C, F, and G for rock players. This is the equivalent for jazz, I believe, right? So again, this to this and this to this. We can do the same process with minor, although it's going to be more tricky. What I would want is this 9th that's here. So in order not to break my wrist like that, because I dislike when my wrist becomes not neutral, pay attention, film yourselves, guys. Always make sure you have wrist neutrality, not to cause any injuries or tendonitis. Which I had in the past, which is horrible. So we do a G minor 9 like this. So you can use that finger on the 9th or that finger. So I would alternate and go like ba, 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 ba. This is something I've done also on the 4-on-6 demo into introduction here. And for the G minor 9 up here, I would simply have one note movement. So this is a 9th, this is a 3rd. So it's not a very colorful move, but it's a move regardless, which can be really interesting, right? So we have movement for a major chord, we have movement for a minor chord, and now what I would do is find ways to do altered dominance. So our G13 and our G9, we can also move the top note, one note. So if I do that note here, I get a G7 flat 13, very colorful, very interesting, right? And if I do my G9, I can do G7 sharp 9, the Hendrix chord, although it's not in E, it's not Purple Haze, but it's this one, or G7 flat 9, right, like this. Perfect. So now you have ways to look at the 3 chord shapes we looked at, times 2 starting strings, times note variations, so things can really start to get more interesting. Now, I don't want to get too deep into this. This is a bonus, but if you're really comfortable on all these shapes, you have a good handle, you can displace them in different keys, and you can comp on songs. One thing you might want to start doing is just remove the root altogether. So if you have a G6, you just take it out and you're wind up with this shape. It still counts as a G6, especially if your bass player friend is playing the bass for you, right? So this is G6, this is G6, 9, this is G Major 9, this is G6, and then the G minor, same thing. This guy. You just simply avoid playing the root, and same with the G13. You can do this or that, you can do G9, right? And the beauty of getting rid of the root is you can also start to add the top string. The top string is going to be really easy to add because it's the same note at the same fret. So if I have my G here, and I just simply remove the G from the bottom and put it on the top here, then I get this, which is still a G6. It's the same exact notes, but it's in a different register. So with that stuff, you can start to move things around to a G7, 13, 9, right? So these things get really important because the top two strings becomes almost like the two violins in a string quartet in classical. They can move around while the harmony is still static, is still pretty basic. So remember, your root is on the 5th or 6th, your two notes on the middle strings typically will be the 3rd and the 7th, and your top strings can go like they're the workhorse of harmony and melody. On that note, that's it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed and you're able to take these 3 shapes in your playing and expand your jazz vocabulary. I'm Mark from jazzguitarlessons.net. Remember to go and check out the jazz progressions videos and a bunch of recent blogs and videos and free stuff that's on the website, and I'll see you soon on there, jazzguitarlessons.net. Improve your jazz guitar playing with a real teacher. Talk to you soon. Take care.